Good morning, everybody. So, almost as planned, we will be talking about a song everyone should know. This could get heavy, but it is all true. It happened in 1939. So, not too long ago, right? 86 whole damn years ago. So, in your grandparents' or your parents' lifetimes. So, I obviously know lots about this song and also Billie Holiday, but I still researched some things so I can give you all of this info about how the government and its racism terrorized and basically killed this brave, beautiful songbird. Actually, in 2021, there was a much needed movie made about her life in this song. It's called The United States versus Billie Holiday. There's also a book and an older movie about her life as well. They both are called Lady Sings the Blues. It's tragic and sad, and it shows how powerful racism is and how powerful a driving force it can be. So without further ado, I'll start with a spoiler. The fruit she sings of is black bodies hanging from the trees in the South due to all of the lynching in the South. Lynching is defined as a public killing of individuals, usually African Americans, by a mob, usually without due process. Due process is a fundamental legal principle that ensures fairness in civil and criminal matters like in court. This process is a core guarantee of the United States Constitution. The 14th Amendment DP clause states that no one can be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. I just want to note that the lack of due process is something that goes against everything that this country is built on. This is happening today with the ICE raids, along with so many other things that go against the Constitution, and more importantly, the Lord. But as always, I digress. Per PBS.com, lynching is a form of racial terror used to enforce supremacy and keep the system of racial subordination after the slaves were freed. Lynching obviously existed before slavery, but unfortunately gained momentum again during the Reconstruction, which followed the abolition of slavery, and we'll cover that later. Strange Fruit is a powerful, poignant protest song written by a Jewish teacher named Mr. Abel, and it was popularized by Billie Holiday. It is a direct condemnation of the lynchings of Black Americans in the American South, using vivid imagery to describe the horrifying reality of these acts. The song was inspired by a photograph of two black men hanged from a tree and was originally published as a poem before being set to music. So again, it was written by Mr. Abel Mirapool, a Jewish teacher, in response to the widespread lynchings of black people in the South. The lyrics use stark imagery to depict the violence, comparing the hanging bodies to fruit on a tree. Billie Holiday's iconic performance of the song brought attention to the issue and helped to spark the civil rights movement. It's significant because Strange Fruit is considered a seminal protest song and is still widely recognized as a powerful statement against racial injustice. It endures and it has a legacy, and the song has been covered by numerous artists and remains a potent reminder of the legacy of racial violence and its ongoing relevance today. The song's themes continue and highlight the ongoing struggle for racial equality and justice. After recording Strange Fruit in 1939, Billie Holiday's career was marked by personal struggles and legal troubles, including drug abuse and a prison sentence. Despite performing at Carnegie Hall after her release and continuing to work as a concert performer, she ultimately died from liver failure or heroin withdrawal in 1944, she was posthumously inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame and the National Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame and recognized as a significant figure in jazz history. The song protests the lynching of black bodies with lyrics that compare the victims to the fruit of trees again. Such lynchings had reached a peak in the southern United States at the turn of the 20th century, and the great majority of victims were black. The song was described as a declaration of war and the beginning of the civil rights movement by Atlantic Records co-founder Ahmet Ertegun. I can never say his name right. My bad. It's late, y'all, and I'm tired. I just want to get this done. So, in 1939, Billie Holiday rode the service elevator in a Midtown Manhattan hotel on her way to sing on stage. Of course, the hotel had a front door, but Holiday wasn't allowed to use it because she was black. Little did she know this was just the beginning of the troubles that would follow her that night and for the rest of her life. She stuck to her set list, including singing Strange Fruit, a hauntingly emotional song against lynching with lyrics like Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. But that night she received a warning from the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, a government agency which lasted from 1930 to 1968. She was told never to sing the song again. The link between the song and the anti-drug agency may feel disjointed, except that the FBN commissioner, Harry Anslinger, drew a correct correlation. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but I hope I'm not. Disrespectfully, of course. To Harry Anslinger, Billie Holiday was the symbol of everything that America should be afraid of. She had a heroin addiction because she'd been continuously raped as a child, and unsurprisingly, the grief and the pain of that followed and stayed with her. While she tried to deal with these huge, tumultuous issues, she was also resisting white supremacy. And when she insisted on continuing on her right as an American citizen to sing Strange Fruit, Anslinger resolved to destroy her. Anslinger was widely known as a huge racist, obviously. When Anslinger first took on the role in the new agency that was part of the Treasury Department, he was determined to eradicate all drugs everywhere. He had previously been a part of the Department of Prohibition, but since the prohibition had been abolished, he was more determined than ever to take a strict stance on drugs. Among his strategies were his belief that jazz music was a part of the problem. To him, it sounded like the jungles in the dead of night, and the songs reek of filth. His agents even reported back to him that many among the jazzmen think that they are playing magnificently when under the influence of marijuana, but they are actually becoming hopelessly confused and playing horribly. The reason for his targeting of a genre of music came down to his widely known bias. He was regarded as an extreme racist in the 1920s. He used the N-word so often in official memos that his own senator said he should have to resign. So that the controversial nature of Strange Fruit at the time, it gave him the excuse that he needed to go after Holiday. This was not a time when there were political pop songs, and to have an African American woman standing in front of a white audience singing a song against white supremacy and its violence was viscerally shocking at that moment in life. You put together the fact that she had large substance abuse problems, and bam, Anslinger became laser focused on taking Holiday down. Anslinger set agents after Holiday. He didn't like to hire black agents, but he assigned Jimmy Fletcher to investigate Holiday since she was based in Harlem, and he wanted his agent to be able to blend in. Fletcher himself believed you victimize yourself by becoming a junkie, so he seemed like the right fit for the job. Fletcher soon frequented Holiday's neighborhood and saw her drinking and doing cocaine firsthand, but Holiday noticed him around too and grew to like him. Although Fletcher did eventually have to raid her, they grew close and were even seen dancing together at Club Ebony. Then her raggedy ass husband worked with the FBI to set her up. Around the time, Holiday would often show up to her performances beaten by her POS husband, Louis McKay. So she eventually cut him off. He was so enraged, even being quoted as saying, "I got enough to finish her off." McKay went down to Washington, D.C. and met with Anslinger, and they decided that McKay would set Holiday up. Holiday was caught and put on trial. It was actually called the United States of America versus Billie Holiday. And that's just the way it felt, Holiday wrote in her autobiography. Despite telling the judge that she simply wanted the opportunity to recover and find the cure, she was sentenced to a year in prison in West Virginia, where she had to kick her habit but also didn't sing a note. When she was released from Alderson Federal Prison in 1947, her license to perform was revoked. But that didn't seem to faze her. Therefore, she played a sold-out show at Carnegie Hall, a venue that she went on to perform at more than 22 times. Even after reportedly being framed, Holiday continued to perform Strange Fruit. Anslinger wasn't done with her yet. He recruited Colonel George White, who was a sensation as the first and only white man to ever infiltrate a Chinese drug gang, and he even learned to speak in Mandarin so he could chant their oaths with them. At a time when Holiday claimed she had been clean for more than a year, White busted Holiday at San Francisco's Mark Twain Hotel, saying he found opium in a wastebasket and a heroin kit in her room. And if you have intuition or sense, I think it's pretty clear that they planted that shit on her that night. And then claim that she's broken and destroyed again. She's really back on the path of addiction. Historical documents back this up. Unfortunately, her drug abuse and her career spiraled, but she kept performing throughout the 1950s, and most importantly, she kept singing Strange Fruit. This kind of courage, not only that she would risk her career and her career mobility, and that she actually risked her life and her freedom because she felt she had to sing this song. Anslinger continued to pursue her in the hospital. One day in 1959, Holiday collapsed and was taken to the hospital and was diagnosed with liver disease, and she knew Anslinger wasn't done with her yet. So she's very ill, and she goes into heroin withdrawal because she's not given any heroin, obviously, or methadone in the hospital. Thank goodness her friend managed to insist that she was given methadone, and she began to recover. Obviously, heroin withdrawal is very, very dangerous, and her body was already weak with liver disease and all. And then Holiday's worry came true. Anslinger's team arrested her on her hospital bed. It became clear what was happening, and protests were even held outside the hospital as people carried signs saying, "Let Lady Day live," referring to her by her nickname, Lady Day. But after 10 days, the methadone was cut off because Anslinger had a micro pee-pee. On July 17, 1959, Lady Day died. Anslinger was ecstatic, I assume, that his penis remained small, and he was done with his decade pursuit to take down a brave black woman because of his racism. I've heard before that at the time he was lying, planting dope, and terrorizing Lady Day, he spoke on Judy Garland's drug addiction by telling her to take longer vacations. You see the difference of treatment? In September 1962, Anslinger was even honored by President F.J. Kennedy for his work on the war on drugs. While Billie Holiday unfortunately met her end, her dedication should transcend time and always be acknowledged and remembered. She took on the corrupt government, the racist government, and ultimately gave her life because of it. So that's why I decided to cover her story. If she could persevere through all of this ugly, hateful racism and torment to add or bring attention to this very important issue of lynching, then we can take a minute to listen, understand, and recognize the queen when you see her. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry. I know that these videos aren't the best. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I have insomnia, but I hope you learned something, and I hope it inspires you to go listen to the song. It's beautiful in its sadness, which is sometimes, unfortunately, how life is. Anyway, please go listen to the song or watch the movie. I watched it multiple times. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. I hope that you all are having a blessed day. God bless you, and I hope to see you all soon.